Hey, this is Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I was part of a motorcycle club very briefly called Chariots of Light. I honestly have no idea who or what they are. Joined for a month, and shortly after that, the Canadian version of it fell apart. But for a month, it was very cool. For a month, in that month I was part of it, we were able to go to a motorcycle rally and share the gospel with fellow motorcycle riders. So on a Friday the 13th, we went to Port Dover, which is the big motorcycle event, at least in Ontario, and I had a blast. It was absolutely awesome. I loved the ride down there. I loved the friends that I was riding with. I wish I could do it all over again. We spent the day just working the crowd and talking to people about Jesus and handing out these free little aluminum crosses just to bless bikes. We went around and blessed bikes so we can share the gospel with people. I loved it, but it wasn't all fun. While I was away from the booth, we had our own display. While I was away from the booth, I was walking up and down the sidewalks, just trying to get into conversations with people, being myself as I was back then. Two of the guys who stayed at the booth, they became a little too radical, and they intentionally walked over to a Hell's Angels display as they were trying to do some kind of rally on their membership. And they were so radical that they decided to begin to preach at the guys who were standing in the Hell's Angels booth. I wanted to punch him in the face, quite honestly. So here's what that resulted in: a little bit of tension. They responded by putting some kind of barricade around our booth. They just stationed guys around the walkways around our booth so that nobody was able to access where we were. These Hells Angels guys just giving people the nod, don't go closer. Got pretty intense. So eventually, not long after the barricade was set up, we had police officers armed with assault rifles just casually walking over to where our booth was, just casually kind of looking like they're just doing their rounds. A couple of police officers wearing, flak jackets and assault rifles, just casually leaning against walls and stuff like they were just on a break or something. That was fun. And then maybe after about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops, maybe, um, the barricade was let go. The guys went back to their booth. The police officers breathed a sigh of relief, and and we went on about our business. And I vowed never to hang out with those guys at another motorcycle rally again, because like I liked working the crowd and talking to people about Jesus, but I wasn't quite as radical as that. Now, here's the thing: not everyone appreciates Jesus like a Jesus follower appreciates Jesus. Some people are downright aggressive against Jesus and Jesus followers. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. Today's video is based on my interpretation of 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 11 to 14. In this text, we're going to see what's said about the opposition, and we're going to find some encouragement. So if you've ever faced any kind of opposition at all around being a Jesus follower, then maybe this text has some encouragement for you. I'm recording this on Zoom. I find that the green screen background is better, shows up better when I'm on Zoom. And I'm using my share screen. This is what we do when we meet together. It's right now over the summer, it's just a bunch of guys, a real ragtag group of guys. We all have really great relationships, but we're very diverse. We meet Sundays at 6 o'clock on Zoom and share screen. So this is what to expect if you wanted to show up on Sunday at 6 o'clock. So here's the text: 1 Peter chapter 4. Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you are going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it is revealed to all the world. If you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you will be blessed, for the glorious Spirit of God rests on you. If you suffer, however, it must not be for murder, stealing, making trouble, or prying into other people's affairs, like duh. But it is no shame to suffer for being a Christian. Praise God for the privilege of being called by his name. For the time has come for judgment, and it must begin with God's household. And if judgment begins with us, what terrible fate awaits those who have never obeyed God's good news? And also, if the righteous are barely saved, what will happen to the godless sinners? So, if you are suffering in a manner that pleases God, keep on doing what is right and trust your lives to the God who created you, for he will never fail you. I'm going to keep my helmet on because now I already have helmet head. And instead of dealing with that, my hair is all matted. Instead of dealing with that, I'm just going to keep it on. Here's what I have for you. Here's what I want to share in this video. Some good news about persecution. Not going to lie. I am really going to try to share some good news around all of the persecution that you and I might be experiencing. We're in August now, and I've noticed that I haven't really been out on my bike hardly at all this summer. I've taken a few days off in July to ride my bike, and I've got rained out. So disappointing. Barely touched the bike, and I'm really sad about it. Is there any good news at all about me not being able to ride my bike much at all this summer? I got to be honest that would be really hard for me to see any good news in that at all because I really enjoy getting on the bike. It really grounds me. I love it. And it may be hard for you to see any good news about persecution. I get it. But I see some good news in this text that I want to share with you in order to keep you encouraged. So here's what I have for you. I've got two pieces of good news for you if you are experiencing any kind of persecution. Here's the first thing I want to share with you. It's normal to be unliked. The text says, don't be surprised at the fiery trials you're going through as if something strange were happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, so that you will have the wonderful joy of seeing his glory when it is revealed to all the world. Not everyone likes bikes. I get it. I've had several conversations with people, many conversations with people who I don't know if they would say that they hate bikes. I mean, some just hate bikes, but mostly they hate the potential injury around having a motorcycle. They feel that they're unsafe. And of course, they've got a point. You know, cars are safer than bikes. I get that. And staying in your bed all day may also be safer than leaving your house to go buy groceries and go shopping. You know, so we can't take all the risk out of life because then what would we actually be doing? Anyways, people sometimes initiate conversation with me and they just let me have it. And I'm sure that they're very well intended and they have my best interest in their heart of hearts. This is a very sad reality, but it is the very sad reality that not everyone likes motorcycles. I am not surprised by that. I'm bothered by it because I think that we're all missing something really wonderful, but I'm totally not surprised by it at all. Okay, so it's similar with Jesus. Not everyone likes Jesus. I'm bothered by that, but I'm not surprised by that. The text tells us not to be surprised by fiery trials, like something strange is happening to you, to me. Namely, it's talking about persecution. Now, the letter was written to a church who were filled with people who were losing their property, losing their income. Some were losing their lives. Like it was this kind of intense persecution that we are seeing some martyrs during this time period. Persecution getting intense. And the letter says, don't be surprised by it. It's like this is actually the norm. This is normal because there are people who just don't like Jesus. Jesus wasn't liked by everyone when he was here. You won't be liked by everyone because of your association with him. Some people are just in an all-out argument with God. And if they find out that you're a Jesus follower, you get in the middle of it and you become the target for everything they want to yell at God about. And then the text gives us some awesome insight. The experience of any kind of persecution, what it tells us is it levels up our game and it makes us partners, the partner status with Jesus. I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's very validating. You're not experiencing persecution in vain. You're not unnoticed. It's not going on without reward. Actually, you're noticed so much that your status is leveled up to partner with Jesus. Yeah, I mean, there's no real status in heaven. We're all family of Jesus here. But I mean, this is a lot of encouragement here. Specifically, a parallel is drawn to Jesus' experience at both ends of this journey. He experienced persecution and death, and then he experienced the glory of the resurrection. And this is what's being said of us. As we experience persecution, we should expect the same kind of truth that is in Jesus. We're going to be experiencing the glory of the resurrection as we are included with Jesus and identified with Jesus. Will you experience opposition for simply being a Jesus follower? Yes, absolutely. It is the norm. Is there any good news in that at all? Yes. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with Jesus as the light of the world and will experience, you can expect the experience of the glory of the resurrection, just like Jesus experienced it. Worth it. Here's the second thing I want to share with you. It's good to be noticed. The text says, if you are insulted because you bear the name of Christ, you will be blessed, for the glorious Spirit of God rests upon you. My Harley is loud, and I love it that way. I can beat all of the cars off a stoplight when the light turns green, but I can rarely beat motorcycles off the line. My bike is one of the slower bikes. I don't want a fast bike. That's not me. I like a loud bike that I can ride casually, that I can cruise around with. I'm not into racing it. I love the casual side of my motorcycle. Loud is good because people know where I am. If they can see me, if they can hear me, then they're most likely unable to hit me because they know I'm there. I'm a really hard target to miss. Although people still manage not to see me from time to time. It's really great to be noticed. Now, similarly, when it comes to being a Jesus follower, it's a great thing to be noticed because it means something about you. Here's why I really love this. I see a lot of hope in this. Now, I came from a really messy life, a really messy backstory. And some of you have come from really messy lives. You've got really messy backstories. And you may say that your backstory is far messier than mine. And I'm not going to argue with that because I think that legitimately some of you have a really great case about that. So I'm going to share with you some hope that I see in this text. This text is telling us that somewhere along the way, while we've been choosing to live as a Jesus follower, there's something about us that starts looking similar to Jesus. Bearing the name of Jesus, I mean identifying as Jesus follower, that includes the spiritual reality that the Holy Spirit is within us, part of us, always present. The Spirit's present isn't a thing that we can see with our eyes, or is it? That doesn't mean we're completely blind to this. It's observable in our choices, in our behavior, the way we treat others, the content of our conversations. Walk with Jesus long enough and you start to pick up some of his traits and people start to see him in you. So as messy a background as you may come from, it's not so messy that this can't become your reality too. The longer you walk with Jesus, the more you start to remind people of Jesus. And that might be okay if you're in a church or surrounded by other Jesus followers. But if you're surrounded by people who have rejected the truth, that's not always going to end up with a great experience for you. When you, a person who gives off the Jesus vibe, when you come in contact with a person who hates Jesus and is pretty aggressive toward the whole idea of God, well, they've just spotted a target. And since they can't physically yell at God to his eyes and spit in his eyes, you then are the closest, best thing to it. And the only thing that you've done is attempted to get your life on track and get rid of your messy backstory and be a better you and place your faith in Jesus and accept this hope of the resurrection and move out of the mess closer to Jesus. So here's the hope. You're not stuck and so messy that you can't start resembling Jesus somehow. The miracle of healing, living that healed life and living a better life is yours to grab. Just keep following Jesus. The other part of this is that you may become a target for escalated and irrationally minded people who don't believe in God, yet still somehow feel they need to attack God who doesn't exist. I don't know. I guess they're into shadow boxing and mimes if they're that kind of person that aggressively attacks something that they don't believe exists. The cognitive dissonance drives them crazy and you become a target. I guess that's what's happening. Negative attention from Jesus haters is a great sign that you're on the right track. It's good news when you discover that you're incompatible with a toxic system. In this case, it means you're not toxic, you're a Jesus follower. So that's what I have for you. Two pieces of encouragement that if you're experiencing persecution, chances are you may actually be on the right track. If you're not experiencing persecution, chances are you may want to up your act a little bit because nobody's seeing the Jesus traits in you. I mean, that might be a thing. Or you spend way too much time with Christians and you never mingle with anybody who doesn't know Jesus. And you, I don't know, that might be a real problem. But if you are experiencing persecution, then people may be seeing Jesus traits inside of you because you're actually authentically trying to be that Jesus follower. And some people just don't like that. Okay, looking forward to talk about this on Sunday. Men only, 6 o'clock Sunday. Ask for the Zoom link. Okay, that's it from me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Ask for the link. For community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I'll see you next time.